But I like the venue side of things because to me it was always something different. It was always a new event. Every day of the week there's something new coming in the building. And you know, it really just, it kept me involved and it was where I wanted to continue my career path. And at that time there was a couple new venues coming on board. The Trailblazers were getting a new building in Portland. Boston was getting a new building for the Bruins and the Celtics. And this little place up in the northwest, Vancouver, was getting a new NBA team, and they were also getting a new arena opening in 1995. So I, as I'm sure all you guys have experienced, and this was before internet and email, mailed out dozens and dozens of letters and received dozens and dozens of thank yous, but keep looking. But the Vancouver situation was turning out a little bit better. I'd found the right name, which is probably the biggest foot in the doors to make sure you're talking to the right person. And this guy took a flyer on me and said, well, I'm going to be in Toronto on some business, and why don't you find your way up there and let's talk. And had been to Canada once before on a bit of a road trip, and had never been to Vancouver. So I didn't really go to Toronto. I went to Mississauga. So if you haven't been to Mississauga, I don't know, I guess like you're going to Chicago but you end up in Gary. So it's a little bit different than going to Toronto. But I went up there and we had a great talk, and he said, you know, got a good background, you've got some sport experience, we've got this new NBA franchise where we don't have a lot of experienced folks working, and we'll see what we can do. And that was in February. And then it was my first real introduction to the immigration process. And February became March, became April. About this time in April, he gave me a call and said, hey, guess what? Look somewhere else. We'd love to have you, but immigration is not looking very good. And by this time, it had already been about 6-8 weeks. School was done. We were getting ready for our Symposium weekend, and I didn't really know where to turn. So started to really go back to square one and start the process over. But then 2 weeks later, on a Friday afternoon, I got a call, said your paperwork came through, you start on Wednesday. So it was a fortunate time, got really lucky. And at that time, before the internet and all that good stuff, not a lot of avenues to learn about Vancouver here in Athens. There's a great article in National Geographic, and that's about what I had. Had never been really west of Denver before, and got on a plane from Columbus and ended up in Vancouver. And it's been 15 years, but it was a change. Here's our little, we have Mounties. Yes, we do have Mounties. They look like Dudley Do-Right. I've not seen beavers that have Canadian flags, but they're up there. We love maple syrup and Molson Canadian and all those stereotypes. But if you haven't been to Vancouver, it's a beautiful city. And that became my new home. And I was going there in my mind for all the right reasons. It was a new arena. I got up there in May. The new building opened up in September of 1995, General Motors Place. So I really had about 3-4 months of the final construction. My first job was making sure we had enough trash cans in the offices. So it was a start, and I didn't really have a job description when I got up there. I just started to go in, we're doing construction meetings, we were hiring staff, having job fairs, figuring out the move from our offices. We had the old arena, our offices downtown, onto the job site. Had never been to a hockey game, learned about that. So it was quite a transition that summer of '95, but it turned out for the best. It was a shot in the dark, but one that turned out quite well for me when I got up there. My first 5 years, we were starting up a new company, Orca Bay Sports and Entertainment, back in the day. We had the Grizzlies, which was the new franchise, joined the same year as the Raptors. We had the Vancouver Canucks. We had the Vancouver Voodoo for that. I know everybody was a fan of roller hockey. That lasted for a season. We had the Vancouver Ravens. I think they still owe the building about $500,000. But got involved in a lot of things. Britney Spears, that's a big highlight. Back in '99, it was actually a cool concert. How things have changed in 10 years. You can't see, that's Garth Brooks, so that was a big deal for me. Back in the day, we decided that Bryant Big Country Reeves had a future in the NBA. Big Oklahoma State kid, we drafted him. And Garth is a big Oklahoma State guy as well, and he played there a number of shows, but it was a bit of a treat back when he was huge. Hosted the 1998 NBA draft, which was quite an experience, working with the league and all of their partners to put on that event. So it really turned out for the best. I mean, working in a venue, it was everything I wanted it to be. There's always something new every day. We had over 175 200 events a year, so the building was very busy. I started out as I think a lot of us, I think Steve and I both started out as event coordinators on the building side, and that's really where you get to learn. You learn the ropes of the business and manage an event from start to finish, and slowly gain some more responsibility. Started looking after parking and security, health and safety. Started doing some building renovations. So in 5 years, it actually worked out quite well. That had kind of moved up the food chain a little bit, and was certainly still loving my job. But for me, I was a passionate NBA fan. I grew up in San Antonio with the Spurs. I can probably still name too many guys from the '82-'83 San Antonio Spurs team. But it was unique to start a franchise in Vancouver. We had our struggles, but it was really a fun time to expose an entirely new market, a new country, to a product like the NBA, and really thought it was going to be a long-term security blanket. Things changed. The Grizzlies started in 1995. In the 98-99 season, there was a lockout, so we went from 82 games to 50 games. We were bad. It's tough to draw fans when you win not even a quarter of your games. Our 6-year record in Vancouver is 104 and 356. That was tough. We had a 23-game losing streak, and then we had a 19-game, a couple 16s. I can still remember we had a big deal. We won 4 games in a row on the road, and that was in the papers for 2-3 days. That look what they've done. One of my classmates, Jason Ura, he went to the Chicago Bulls in 1995. He has 3 rings. He wins I guess they probably won 104 games in a season and a half. So it was a bit of a struggle for us. But the team was still up there, and then things started to change. The team was actually sold twice, and the first time in 1999, our ownership in Seattle was really had enough. They were overextended. The other numbers up here, $1.55. That was the worst exchange rate that we ever saw when the team was up there. So for every U.S. dollar, it was costing us $1.55 Canadian. With a $48 million payroll in U.S. dollars, which the NBA is, that turned out to be about a $75 million Canadian payroll. It's a bad business model.